Please welcome Brad Snyder to the stage.
Sorry, it always takes me a while to get settled, and if you know my story, I make the joke that, don't worry, I'm faster in the pool. All right, everyone, thank you so much for coming out tonight. Thank you so much for the support of the Pat Tillman Foundation. In this company, it feels weird to spend the next 15 minutes talking about myself, but that's exactly what I'm going to do, so I hope you'll pardon my suspension of my humble leadership for a moment, and I'm going to tell you my story. So on September 7th, 2011, I thought that I died in Afghanistan. I had all of the experience of dying. I stepped on a 40-pound IED, improvised explosive device, 40 pounds. For comparison's sake, a hand grenade's about a quarter pound, so 160 times that was the blast I stepped on. I got knocked back. I remember waking up in the fetal position on the ground, and I could just barely see out of my left eye, and I looked down and I saw my hands, and beyond my hands I could see my boots. What I didn't see was any blood or any damage or anything apparently wrong. And that didn't make sense to me at that time because I knew I had stepped on that IED. I had been in that big explosion. It had knocked me backward. How could there be nothing wrong from the neck down? And the only way I was able to make sense of that is I must be dead. I died here in Afghanistan, half a world away from where I was born at the age of 27. My experience in this moment was that of time standing still. There was no one around, no sound, and I had all the time in the world to think about the life that I had lived. I thought about all the good stuff I had done, all the stupid shit I did, and I think if you weighed it in a balance, I think I did okay. At that point, I was very proud of the life that I had lived. I had lived a good life. I offered my life in sacrifice for our country, our way of life. I died a part of this remarkable brotherhood of service. I was sad that I wouldn't be able to say goodbye to my mom, to my brothers, my sister, but I thought with time they would be proud of me too. But then this crazy thing happened. I started having this ringing in my right ear. It sounded like this. It's called tinnitus, and I thought, oh my God, it is going to be miserable to listen to that for eternity, right? But then beyond the ringing, I could hear my buddy Adam calling to me, Brad, Brad. In a post-blast environment, all the dust and debris from the explosion is thrown up into the air and starts to settle back down to the earth, making a literal fog of war. My buddy Adam knew I had been hit, and he was looking for me, but he couldn't find me. So I yelled at him, he came over to me, and instantly I started to panic. A moment ago, I was okay with dying. I had reconciled my death, but now I knew I was alive, and that terrified me. Something must be wrong. Did I break my back? Did I suffer a traumatic brain injury? Is my face horribly disfigured? So I grabbed my buddy Adam by his armor, and I said, how bad is it? And he said, Brad, I'm not going to lie to you. Your face looks pretty effed up, but the rest of you looks fine. Can you stand up? Now, I realized in that moment I had committed the cardinal sin for an EOD officer like myself. I had run up there trying to be a hero. I stepped on an IED, now making our platoon's problem 2 times as bad, and now I'm in their way. I'm impeding our ability to conduct our mission. I need to get out of here. So my buddy Adam and the medic Kyle propped me up. I walked back about 100 feet to where a helicopter came down, picked me up, and took me to the hospital. They put me asleep in the hospital because I had taken frag in my neck, and apparently being intubated while you're awake is not so pleasant. So I slept for 60 hours. During those 60 hours, I spent 12 in surgery in Kandahar Airfield. I was rushed to Longstuhl Air Force Base, Germany, and then I was rushed to Walter Reed Medical Center, Bethesda, Maryland. And spent a couple of weeks in and out of surgery, in and out of this, lights and voices and hallucinations, and it was really hard for me to make sense of my reality until 1 week into Walter Reed, I remember these surgeons in my room talking about the very last surgery I was going to have to go through. And they kept using this phrase that didn't make any sense to me. They kept using this phrase, hopefully if the surgery is a success, we'll get some of your vision back. Get some of your vision back. Get some of my vision back? I asked, what do you mean? See, up until that point, I was hallucinating really vividly in my mind, all these weird things like Willy Wonka's chocolate factory and all that. The hospital to me looked like Oompa Loompas walking around and all that. It didn't occur to me that I wasn't seeing with my eyes, I was seeing in my mind. So when the surgeon told me that he was trying to get some of my vision back, I didn't understand what he was saying. He said, Lieutenant Snyder, you have a less than 1% chance of being able to perceive light and dark with your right eye. We're going to have to remove your left entirely due to an infection. And I realized what that doctor was saying is that I was blind and that I would be blind for the rest of my life. Now, I think these inflection points in our lives are very important, and I think there are two ways that you can navigate this scenario. You can look at your life as characterized by what's lost, or you can look at your life as characterized by what you still have. Looking at my life as characterized by what's lost, I started to think about all the things I'll never be able to do, the way that my life was now profoundly impacted by the fact that I can't see. I'll never be able to drive a car. I'll never be able to fly an airplane. Not that I've ever wanted to fly an airplane, but just want to be thorough with the can'ts. I realized pretty quickly in that hospital room that can't list doesn't get me very far. And there's an alternative. I could look at my life as characterized by what I still have. And in that moment, I thought about Pat. I thought about my buddy Tyler. And I thought about my buddy Jason, my buddy Scotty, guys who didn't make it back. When I came back to the U.S., I wasn't in a coffin with a flag draped over it. I was on a gurney with 2 legs that work, 2 arms that work, a heart that works, a mind that works, and an endless set of opportunities in front of me to make the most of everything I have left. I thought to myself in that hospital room, how selfish of me would it be to victimize myself over the loss of my vision when Pat didn't come back at all, when Tyler didn't come back at all. Now, I wish I could say we did this like magical, like put our hands in a circle and we were like, blindness on 3, 1, 2, 3, blindness. You know, the beginning of blindness is not too sexy, and it's really frustrating to figure out how to put on my clothes again and what color my jacket is and how to wave this stick around and find my way through the world. But I had this burning desire in my life to not be framed by blindness. I was very grateful to still be alive. The reality of the fact that I thought that I had died and I came back to life was not lost on me. So I wanted to get out of that box as quickly as possible. I wanted to get out of the hospital and start moving as quickly as possible. Thankfully, around that time, I got a call from this guy at the United States Association of Blind Athletes who said something to me I'll never forget. He called me, and I answered from my hospital room, and he said, Brad, do you realize how lucky you are to have been injured in a Paralympic year? And I said, no. I hadn't thought of it that way, but I like your attitude. So that was the beginning of a pathway. At that point in our country, in 2011, we had begun to understand the power of sports as a function of rehab. I know there's some people in this room that's very important to them, and that was really important to me at that point. And I got into swimming, and within a matter of months was ranked 5th in the world as a blind swimmer. And then with a couple more, wait, guys. I really appreciate that, but the clappy part's a little bit later. So I was 5th in the world, and I was ranked number 1 in the world at the Paralympic trials. That named me to Team USA, or to the Paralympic national team, and named me to Team USA for the impending Paralympic Games that would be hosted in London in September of 2012. Shortly after I made the team, I was back in Baltimore training with my coach, and he started going through the order of events, and we started reviewing what the games would look like. And he got quiet for a moment, and he said, Brad, on the 7th of September 2012, you're going to swim the 400-meter freestyle. Now, the significance of that day, that's the day I lost my vision in Afghanistan. The significance of that event, it was an event I was favored to win by 20 seconds. You can't write a better sports story than that, right? So as you might imagine, leading up to the Paralympic Games in London 2012, there was all this media attention and buzz. Well, It was Paralympics back in 2012. So this writer in Philly wrote an article, and we were super excited about that. And this sports writer asked me, Lieutenant Snyder, are you nervous to compete in the Paralympic Games for the first time? And unfortunately, I said the first arrogant thing that popped in my mind. I said, no. I said, sir, I used to defuse bombs in Afghanistan for a living. How hard could Paralympics be? And he laughed, and he put that in the article. I remember reading it afterward thinking, yeesh. That was kind of a dick thing to say. Not exactly the pillar of humility with a remark like that, am I right? And I tell you, I really regretted that remark as I got to the Paralympic Village and I walked around listening to all these athletes from different countries talking different languages about different events, wheelchair basketball, seated volleyball, track and field swimming. I walked out into a swimming arena surrounded by 18,000 seats. I know that's nothing to the NFL players in this room, but for a swimmer like me, 18,000 is a huge crowd. And it's 18,000 screaming European hooligan fans who are 3 Guinnesses deep, right? So they are rip-roaring crowd. And I remember in the ready room thinking, like, I have been through some very nerve-wracking experiences, from jumping out of an aircraft at 14,000 feet to taking a bomb apart with my bare hands. This was one of the most nerve-wracking experiences of my life. And then they announced,
please welcome the competitors for the S11 400-meter freestyle.
Walked out onto the pool deck, and it's so loud with those 18,000 people that it feels like the world is vibrating. And if this is not nerve-wracking enough, as swimmers, we strip down into underpants in front of all those 18,000 people. Once I got ready, my coach put my hand on the block, and I knew I was the most experienced swimmer in that field. I knew I needed to just execute the best version of myself, and that race was mine. They blow the whistle, step up on the block, set your feet.
Take your mark.
I dove off. Now, I'll make this joke that blind swimming is really unique in the gamut of Olympic and Paralympic sports, because if you think about it really hard, it's 8 totally blind dudes just trucking down that lane at full speed. What's bound to happen? Kind of like the excitement of NASCAR. Crashing is like part of it, right? So kind of the simultaneous reaction of 18,000 people in that arena is to go, and that's what's in my mind, is just don't crash, just don't crash. 400 meters is 8 lengths of the pool. If I can get through these 8 lengths without crashing, this race is mine. Number 1 is easy, number 2 is easy, the first 100's always cake. I get through lap 3, I get a little close to that lane line, but I get myself into the middle. I get through lap 4, I'm halfway done. I'm into my third 100, I build my legs in to get myself through the pain part. I get through lap 7, I get through lap 8. I hear the crowd getting super loud. I hope they're cheering for me, but I don't know what's going on. So I power into the wall and I touch. Now, there's this other thing that makes blind swimming really unique in the gamut of Olympic and Paralympic sports. Who remembers the 2012 Games in London, the Olympic Games? What was the big storyline out of London? Or even Rio? Phelps, greatest Olympian of all time, right? Michael Phelps has won 430 gold medals, and he has all of the world records. What happens when Michael Phelps touches the wall at the Olympic Games? He looks up at a Jumbotron that says Michael Phelps wins again, right? 431. And what does Michael Phelps do when Michael Phelps wins? He splashes the water, right? He fist pumps. He gives it 2 for victory. He looks over at that trash-talking South Africa guy, and he's like, what now, South Africa? None of that happens in blind sports because we can't see the Jumbotron. So I finished the race of my life, right? That story may have come true. Navy sailor gets blown up, wins a gold medal on the year anniversary of the day he lost his vision. I executed my race. I've got this tingly feeling in my hand. I just want a fist pump. What kind of idiot am I going to look like if the guy in lane 8 had the race of his life and I actually got second, right? So not wanting to look foolish, I just sat there. The whole crowd's cheering. They know what happened. They're looking at the Jumbotron. They're super excited about something, but I don't know what that is. Then the announcer announces the outcome, and it sounds like this. What? And then the guy next to me finishes, so at least I beat him, right? My inclination is to go over and be like, hey, man, what happened? But he doesn't know either. He's blind too. He's Ukrainian anyway, and he doesn't speak any English, so we all... Finally, they blow the whistle 3 times, meaning the heat is over and they want us to get out of the pool. And at that point, my coach could legally talk to me. He leaned over to me and said 2 words I'll never forget. He said, "You won. That story came true. I won a gold medal at the Paralympics on exactly the year anniversary of the day I lost my vision." We all get the teamwork award. That was the clappy moment. So now, after you win, I know that the crowd's cheering for me, right? And that's awesome. I wave and they cheer, and I wave and they cheer. And I go talk to the media zone, to all these different journalists from all over the world who want to know what it feels like to be a gold medalist. And then you go take a pee test to make sure you're not doping. And then you go out to the podium. The podium's a cool moment, right? They announce your name, and they announce, winning the gold medal for the United States, Brad Snyder. And they come over and they put this gold medal around your neck, and they give you a bouquet of flowers. Ooh, wow, that was more aggressive than I meant. You go like this. But that's a fleeting moment, right? Attaboy, Brad, you did something cool. Your country's proud of you. But what happens immediately after that? They play our anthem, and they raise our flag higher than all the other flags in that arena. As I stood at attention listening to our anthem play, I couldn't help but think about all the people who had been a part of that incredible journey. My buddy Adam and the medic Kyle dusting me off and getting me onto that helicopter, where the pilot put himself, his flight crew, and his aircraft at risk to land in an IED-laden zone to take me to help. To the surgeon, she and her staff spending 12 hours putting my face back together. To the crew in Longstuhl Air Force Base, Germany, who did just that. To the same crew in Walter Reed Medical Center. To my mom, who got that call at 5:30 in the morning saying her son had been blown up. He probably has a traumatic brain injury. We need you to get to Maryland as quickly as you can. To my siblings who wrapped their arms around my mom and got her through those trying circumstances. To Rich Cardillo, who told me I was lucky to be injured in a Paralympic year. To people like Pat and Tyler and Jason and Scotty, who gave their lives up so that I could have that incredible moment, so that we can have this incredible moment. I realized in that moment that individuals never accomplish anything truly great. It's when communities unite under a shared passion, that's where magic is possible. Now, I meditate on that a lot. I think about that moment. I think about that flag. I think about what that flag means to me, how those 50 stars and 13 stripes represent something so much bigger than us. I think about those stars. I think about how that flag and the ideals that that flag represent is not owned by any one person. It's all of ours. It's our shared ideals. It's our shared identity. And I think about how those stars represent all of us. We're all stars on that flag, equal value in the eyes of our country and our ideals. I think about how we're all stars in each other's orbit, influencing and impacting each other in all kinds of ways, sometimes intentional, sometimes incidental. I ask myself frequently, how do I make the most of my star? How do I earn my star? I'll suggest to you there are 2 ways. One, every day I affirm to myself that I want to be worthy. I want to be worthy of this moment that I almost didn't have, this moment that was enabled by people like Pat and Tyler and Scotty and Jason. It would be a waste if I was to do anything other than give this moment my most, be my best self every moment I have left, to be worthy. And the second thing I aim to achieve in earning my star is to believe that in doing that, I'm making the world better. In bringing my best self by making the most of every moment, I'm lifting everyone else up. I'm inspiring everyone else to do the same. And if that carries out, if that ripple moves out, just like the way we've seen with Pat's legacy, then I know, or I believe, that that is going to make the world a better place. Thank you. I have one thing else to add on that. So after that incredible journey, I had a full career in Paralympics, And I then eventually had to face the choice of, eventually I can't do this sports thing forever. I'm going to have to make something else of myself. But as a blind person, I face untold obstacles every day. Websites, mobility, getting in and out of the airport, finding my way into a new career is very challenging. And I went through a period of time where I wasn't sure that I could do it. Like, what's it? Any of it. Wasn't sure I could continue on to re-identify, to seek out a new vocation and develop myself. I had the opportunity to go to the Naval Academy and found my dream job was to be a professor, but to do so I needed to get a PhD. I can't read. I run into inaccessible technology every day. How am I going to get a PhD? At that point, I was suffering from significant self-doubt. And as I was applying for grad school programs, I also applied to be a part of this foundation. And I was named as a Tillman Scholar. And while I got some money towards my degree, the most important thing I got was belief. This group believes in me. I came to PTLS and people believed in me. When you ask a Tillman Scholar, or if you tell a Tillman Scholar, I'm going to go to the moon, they don't say, how are you going to go to the moon? They say, how can I help? And that belief is so magical. And I think, if nothing else, the Pat Tillman Foundation and all of our scholars is a repository of belief, a belief in a better tomorrow. I hope that you'll join me in supporting this incredible organization, raising your paddle out of your belief in a better tomorrow. Thank you guys very much.